بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الله كل عمل ابن آدم له إلا الصيام فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So this hadith, as we know, is called Hadith al-Qudsi, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions it to us. So this is a Hadith al-Qudsi. Continuing with our series of Ramadan, the 40 Hadith on Ramadan, in this Hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ عَمَلِ ابْنِ آدَمَ لَهُ إِلَّا الصِّيَامِ, that every action of the humans is for them, except for siyam, except for fasting. فَإِنَّهُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. Verily, the fast is for me and I will give reward for it. I will give compensation for it. وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ, and fast is a shield. Fasting is a shield. وَإِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلَا يَرْفَثْ وَلَا يَصْخَبْ. And whenever a person is fasting, the day he is fasting, he should not say anything negative and he should not fight. فَإِن سَابَهُ أَحَدٌ أَوْ قَاتَلَهُ فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي امْرَؤٌ صَائِمٌ. And if anybody fights with him, or anybody says anything negative to him, or fights with him, he should just say that I am fasting. وَالَّذِي نَفْسَ مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ. I swear by that who possesses the soul of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَخُلُوفُ فَمِ الصَّائِمِ أَطْيَبُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ رِيحِ الْمِسْكِ. That the smell that is coming from a fasting person's mouth is more dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the smell of musk. لِلصَّائِمِ فَرْحَتَانِ. For a fasting person, there are two happiness. يَفْرَحُهُمَا, that he gets happy with. إِذَا أَفْطَرَ فَرِحَ وَإِذَا لَقِيَ رَبَّهُ فَرِحَ بِصَوْمِهِ. When he opens his fast, when he breaks his fast at ghurub, it's a cause of happiness for him. And when he will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it would be a cause of happiness because of his fast. A little lengthy hadith, we try to go into the commentary a little bit just so that we understand. First and foremost, Hadith al-Qudsi has a superior value because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being quoted by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's speech is also a form of revelation. All the hadith, if it's authentic, if it's established, then that is a form of wahi, is a form of revelation. But when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is quoting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously it has a different feeling that Allah is talking to us directly. So this is one of the Hadith al-Qudsi. The first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is, the beginning part is, every action of the humans is for them, except for fasting. Fasting is for me and I will reward it. What does this mean? So the scholars went into a lot of detail about what does this mean by it's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rest of the actions is for ourselves. Obviously, every action that we do is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we're not doing that, then we need to correct ourselves and make sure that we do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But fasting, some scholars mention one of the reasons is because usually if you're praying salah, we're praying in jama'ah. Everybody knows we prayed. If you go and you perform hajj, everybody knows you went for hajj. You do other things, you give form of charity many times. At least the person you're giving it to will know in some capacity that he is receiving it. Somehow things will come up. But fasting is something that nobody even knows that a person is fasting. There are people who will be fasting for years and years and years, and you finally find out that, this person fasts every week 2 days, or every month 3 days, and we won't even know. Because this person just keeps it to himself that, a lot of times during the day we're not interacting and, this person is just fasting. So one of the things is that it's for that nobody else knows. This is one explanation. The second explanation is that the reward for every action is fixed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had already fixed something, a specific reward for the salah, for the zakah, for the hajj. All of that is fixed. But for siyam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, I will fix the reward on the day of judgment. Meaning, I'm going to specifically do it. You know, for example, sometimes when we have some specific gifts that we want to give. So, you know, you have the participation trophies, you give it to everyone. Then you have certain levels that you will say, okay, no, I need to find something very different and unique. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, siyam is like that. And then obviously there's other explanation about it, but obviously we don't have too much time. But this is the first thing. The second thing is, وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ. That fasting is a shield. It protects a person from everything. And that is what the statement that is coming after, that whenever a person is fighting with us, we should not fight. And if somebody fights with us, we just say, you know what, brother, I'm fasting, jazakallah khair, I don't have the energy for this. And not only this, it actually stops us from many other things that we don't even realize. Inshallah, like if you get another chance to go into a little bit more detail, this fasting is something that automatically builds taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. That fasting has been obligatory on you just the way it was an obligatory for the people. It was written for the people before you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, la'allakum tattaqun. Siyam, the fasting, has a natural instinct to integrate taqwa into our life if we just fast. So that's why immediately, even the things that are halal, even the things that are okay, we start becoming mindful in Ramadan. We would go to the water fountain, even after Ramadan, we would go to the water fountain and say, wait, am I fasting? I said, no, Ramadan's done. Then we would go. Because this happens all the time. Why? Because that's what siyam, the Ramadan and the fasting, it built that taqwa. Imagine if we could have this taqwa, this awareness and this shield from everything all the time. Whenever we're drinking water, I said, am I okay to drink? Imagine if that's for water and drinking, imagine for everything else. Any sin. Am I allowed to do this? No, of course not. So I should stop right away. So this is something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith is mentioning about, وَالصِّيَامُ جُنَّةٌ. That this is a shield. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he talks about the smell coming from a fasting person's mouth. You know, many times it's looked upon as something negative. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that this, we know that the smell is caused by the emptiness of the stomach. Because our stomach is empty, and usually the end of the day, you actually feel that, you know, the smell is getting harsher. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is comforting us that this smell, even though you might dislike it, others might dislike it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really likes it. The way to understand this, you know, when we have a child, tiny baby, we're holding it in our hands, and then all of a sudden it vomits or it has a dirty diaper. Nothing is reduced, even though we might look at it that, it might not be such a pleasant smell. But when we love that baby, automatically we develop love that will tolerate everything that's there. So even though from the human side, we think of it negative, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala values that fast so much that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefers this smell, it's more dear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the smell of musk. And this is something for us to understand, that a lot of times what we consider to be probably negative or something bad or something that we say, how can I fast, Mondays and like even outside, so, we will be working, I have to conduct meetings and all that. Leave that, it's fine. A lot of times we just have to worry about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have to worry about pleasing everyone else. The main thing is that a lot of times we might consider something negative, but if it's in Sharia, if it's something acceptable, something that is preferred, then we need to go with that. And this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comforting us. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ends the hadith with telling us that we always have two causes of happiness in result of a fast. all day we're fasting. And many times, like, it's like this culture that, iftar is being prepared throughout the day. There is groceries being done. Okay, in iftar we're having this, in dinner we're having that. There's so much anticipation built up. So when we take that first sip of water, the date, and when we break our fast, it's like this immediate happiness. It almost feels like, there is a level of life coming back into us, and we did all of this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this happiness is the temporary happiness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with in this world. And this is the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not want us to delay our iftar. If somebody delays their iftar, it's actually considered something disliked in Sharia. You have to open it right away. As soon as ghurub happens, as soon as maghrib happens, you open it right away. So this is a small happiness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us on the day that we're fasting. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying there is a happiness that is waiting for us in the akhirah, that when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give us something that will make you happy. Many times, for example, like a child, he's accomplishing something great. They're graduating, or they're becoming a hafil, or they're accomplishing something big, and all of a sudden the child comes and he says, what are you getting me for my graduation? What's my graduation gift? What is my becoming a hafiz gift? And if the father or someone elder, they tell the child that it would be something that will make you happy, that's enough content for him. This is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling us that, but don't worry, whatever you're doing in this world for your fast, Allah will make you happy on that day. That's a guarantee. Now imagine who's saying it and who is he saying it for? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making us happy. What else can we ask for? All of our life we live for the happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if that day we're getting guaranteed, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is saying there is a farah. Farah is a happiness that is waiting for you in the akhirah, and Allah will give you that when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you don't need anything else. So this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling us that regardless of what we go through, fasting is difficult while working, while studying, hot days, cold days, different situations. We all know, we all have our challenges. But whatever we go through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make us happy in the akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to understand these beautiful hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those that are upon whom these promises are fulfilled. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to fulfill the commandments of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about fasting, that fulfill its rights, that we do not fight, we do not scream, we do not engage in anything negative. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to be amongst those that will receive the happiness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly in the akhirah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to prepare for our death and our akhirah. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdihi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu.